Buongiorno ragazzi, oggi nuovo episodio del podcast. Ho con me un altro ospite, una ragazza dall'altra parte del mondo che siamo riusciti fortunatamente in qualche modo a organizzarci e metterci d'accordo perché dalla Nuova Zelanda all'Italia non è semplicissimo mettersi d'accordo con i fusi orari, come potete immaginare. Comunque oggi con me c'è Karlina, una powerlifter della meno 76 che ha vinto la categoria Open IPF all'ultimo mondiale e parleremo come al solito sostanzialmente di programmazione principalmente e l'idea è quella appunto di discutere un attimino di come si allena, di cosa fa, di come non va, tutto quello che concerne l'allenamento e la programmazione. Hi Carlina, introduce yourself.
Hi. Hello, everyone. I'm Karlina Tongotea. I am a powerlifter from New Zealand and a world champion now for the first time last year of the under 76 kilo class. And in a week, I'll be heading to Sheffield. So pretty excited.
Okay, what about your best lift?
Yes. So best lifts. Okay. So my best squat is a 225.5 kilo squat, and that's my world record. My best bench is 122.5 kilos, and my best ever deadlift would be from I think 2022 at Commonwealth. That was a 255 kilo deadlift.
Okay. I saw also on your Instagram account a 231.5 maybe or 241 squat.
Yeah. So that's in the gym. That's my best squat in the gym. But those are my best squats, best lifts at competition.
Clear. Okay. So you are now 1 week out from Sheffield. Am I wrong?
It's 2 weeks out, but I'm
2 weeks.
leaving in 1 week. Yeah.
Oh, okay. 2 weeks. So maybe this is atypical for you because you're at the peaking phase of the program. So I would like to talk about maybe a little bit about the peaking, but also in general how your training is and whatever. Would you like to talk in general about the way you're training, or what do you think?
Yeah. I'm happy to talk in general. Like I can sort of spit out what training I do, but I don't really know anything about programming or like what the point of it is. I trust my coach so much. I just do it, and it's worked out pretty well over the last. We've been working together for nearly 6 years, so I just hand it all over to him, and I just do the work. So.
Okay, so how long have you been training?
I've been trained. This will be my 6th year of powerlifting.
Okay.
6 with the same coach.
Okay. What before that?
Before that, I was just there's a sport called netball. It's a cardio-based explosive sport. So I was playing that. I wasn't doing any weight training or anything like that. So I really just started lifting weights 6 years ago.
Wow, that's impressive. That's impressive. And if I may, how old are you?
I'm 31.
31. Oh, okay. So give me a moment so I translate that and then we...
Yeah.
Ok. Ho chiesto a Carlina una piccola introduzione, come al solito, sostanzialmente per darvi un po' una panoramica. Lei ha vinto i mondiali l'anno scorso, a gareggia nella meno 76, tra 2 settimane a Sheffield. Sheffield è probabilmente la competizione in IPF più prestigiosa che ci sia, dove gareggiano diverse persone con un regolamento un po' diverso, però vabbè, per farla breve è la gara più prestigiosa che ci sia e quindi essendo così vicino a quella gara lì, adesso in questo preciso momento si sta allenando in maniera un po' diversa, dopo ne parleremo, perché ovviamente sta facendo il picco. Si allena da 6 anni, prima mi ha detto che faceva uno sport che non c'entra niente con i pesi, non aveva mai fatto pesi prima, e per quanto riguarda come si allena adesso, lei mi ha detto che sostanzialmente si è autodefinita non esperta di programmazione, che ha detto che non se ne occupa, non sa nulla, perché semplicemente si affida a quello che dice il suo coach, che l'ha sempre allenato in tutti questi 6 anni. Per darvi dei riferimenti, le sue migliori alzate in gara sono 222,5 di squat, tutto rodico, 122 di panca e 255 di stacco, però ha fatto in palestra 2,31 e mezzo mi sembra di squat, che lei non lo conta ovviamente perché conta lei conta solo quello che ha fatto in gara. Ok, so let's forget for a moment the fact that you are peaking now for the competition. How do you generally train?
So I guess if we went back a couple of months ago, training, actually it always is the same. I train 3 times a week, just because of partly because of my job and partly because I just seem to not be able to handle much more than that. So they're quite long sessions, so 3 times a week, but they're 3 or 4 hours each time. And generally it will look like on a Tuesday, there's a squat and a bench. On a Thursday, there's a deadlift and a bench. And then on a Saturday, it's an SBD. And on alternate weeks, depends on which one is the heavy. So one week, the squat will be the heavy, or the next week, the deadlift will be the heavy. And that's generally how it goes for my programming. We tried to bring in a 4th day just benching, but that was just a little bit much, so I cut that off for me. So that's generally how the training goes. And I think like most people, it starts off sort of like medium with a higher volume, and then as you peak, it gets heavier, and you start to do your doubles and triples and sometimes and singles.
And have you always been training 3 days a week? All these 6 years?
Actually, yeah. We at the very beginning we did try 4, but I was just having lots of different sort of not injuries, but lots of different pains that I would have to kind of step back from my squatting because my hip was sore or whatever. And so 3 days seemed to work well. It does feel like he just puts 4 days in 3 days though, because there's so much. So I think the overall volume and exposure is the same. It's just on 3 days.
Okay. So you talked about your job. If I'm not wrong, you're a medical doctor. Am I wrong?
Yeah. No, you're right.
Okay, interesting. Well, if it comes to mind something that you would add, and in regard to your profession, maybe because we are talking about training and something comes into your mind, it's interesting because it's the first time I've hear in the podcast a medical doctor who is training also. So don't be shy.
Okay.
Okay. And so you are only benching 3 times a week.
Yes.
Well, that's pretty unusual for a girl, because most of the girls I've interviewed, they are training at least 4 benches a week.
Yeah, it is pretty unusual. And I think in the last year, we did do 4 benches most of the time. But I was just getting a lot of forearm pain. So after I was squatting so heavy, I would get forearm pain. And then when I bench, it was stopping me from benching because the descent of the bar was so painful. And so I ended up just, even though we've only just started trying to bench 4 times, I ended up not doing that anymore. And so it's been 3 bench sessions the whole time.
Okay, so when you lowered from 4 to 3, the forearm pain went away?
So it didn't go away, but it just gave me more time to recover before the next bench session. I have gotten rid of it now with the help of a physio. And so again, we tried to do 4 benches a week, but we actually changed my grip and made it a lot wider 2 months ago. and then it caused some pec tension and pec tightness. So again, I'm back on 3 days.
Oh, just a curiosity, because sometimes the kind of pain you're describing to me looks like the pain you have when you squat low bar, and the position the low bar with the bar down sometimes bothers your elbow and the forearm, and you don't feel it immediately, that you feel the next day or after when you're benching. Do you think that the squat low bar contributes a little bit to this?
Absolutely. It definitely was the main factor. And like you said, it's caused from low bar squat, but it never affects your squat, it affects your bench. And so working with the physio to get my positioning better has completely gotten rid of that. So I'm glad that I found that physio.
Ok. Allora, ho chiesto a lei come ha diviso un attimino la sua settimana, come ha impostato l'allenamento. Allora lei si allena praticamente su 3 giorni a settimana. Questa è la cosa un po' curiosa, perché la maggior parte delle ragazze, tranne Noè, che avevo già intervistato, anche lei ha un'impostazione simile, però la maggior parte delle ragazze, soprattutto in queste categorie di peso qui, si allenano molto più spesso. Lei fa 3 giorni. Il giorno 1 squat panca, il giorno 2 è stacco panca, il giorno 3 è un SBD, quindi squat panca e stacco tutti insieme, dopo gli chiedo qualche dettaglio in più. Gli ho chiesto insomma, delle curiosità sulla panca, sulla frequenza e cose di questo tipo, e mi ha detto che ha praticamente sempre fatto 3 panche a settimana, ha provato delle volte a farne 4, però gli dava fastidio un po', gli venivano fuori doloretti, problemi. E poi mi ha raccontato anche che ha avuto ha ancora dei fastidi agli avambracci, che li sono causati probabilmente, dicevamo, dallo squat, dal low bar, dalla posizione, e poi si ripercuotono con la panca, e l'aver ridotto a 3 panche gli dà un po' più di spazio di recupero, un po' di tempo per gestire meglio, e quindi sostanzialmente 4 panche gli rompevano le scatole. Poi mi ha detto che grazie all'aiuto di un fisioterapista comunque va molto meglio sia la posizione del low bar sia diciamo, il dolore sugli avambracci, però tendenzialmente si trova meglio a fare solo 3 allenamenti e solo 3 panche. Un po' mi ha detto per questione di recupero, un po' per il fatto che comunque col lavoro e tutto incastrare gli impegni non è sempre facilissimo, perché lei è un medico. E quindi adesso è da approfondire, sono curiosissimo di capire altre cose, però molto probabilmente, siccome mi ha detto che fa 3-4 ore di allenamento in ogni seduta, quello che lei dice è che la quantità di lavoro totale secondo lei è simile a chi si allena più spesso, però lei l'ha condensato in 3 giorni per questioni di praticità e recupero. Ok, so I would like to talk about the benches a little bit more. How many sets do you usually practice? Let's forget again for now that you are picking for the competition. Let's talk in general. How many sets do you usually bench in each session?
Yeah, so it would be, so we always have like a primer set, which would be like a variation, and it would be low weights and low reps. So like a tempo or anything different, not just the main bench. And that would be like 3x3 or anywhere between 3x3 to 3x8. So those are the sort of primer sets. And then my actual bench earlier on would be anything like 5 to 10 sets, like anywhere between that. And the higher the sets, the lower the reps. So if it was 10 sets, I would have triples or doubles of a sort of medium weight, maybe like high 90s to low 100 kilos, or like 5x5, 5x6. So a lot of that at the beginning. And sometimes if it's my heavy bench, I will still have that amount, but before it, I'm doing my top set. So that's a very long bench session for me.
That long bench heavy session, I guess, is on the third day, the SBD day.
It is actually never on the SBD day. So SBD day, yeah. So SBD day is usually just a very like moderate day for most of the lifts. It'll probably be like a lighter squat and then a moderate bench and deadlift. But I'll never do my heavy sessions on a SBD day.
Okay. On the SBD day, do you usually use only competition style lifts, or do you use variation as well?
It's always at this block. It's been always a variation. So it's either high bar squat or safety bar squat, and then bench press is something like we've got the three position where it's you stop halfway, touch your chest, stop halfway up. That one. and deficit deadlifts or banded deadlifts. So on my SBD day is all variations.
Okay, interesting. Well, that's not common because usually people choose for the SBD days, for the SBD day or days, depends, to practice with the competition style lift. So you're doing something unusual.
Yeah. For me, it's not unusual because that's always been that way. He's always trained me that way, and so when I started watching, when I started getting to the top level and watching how the other top level athletes train, and they would post like their SBD day as if they have done their openers or maybe even second attempts, and I was like, oh, that's so different, like. They go into competition sort of knowing where they might be, whereas I always go into competition being like, I should be here. I've never done it before, but I should be good for that.
So heavy singles is not something that you practice often?
No.
Okay.
I only get to heavy singles for squat in the last month of my block.
Oh. Ok, interesting. Allora, ho chiesto un attimino di darmi qualche indicazione in più sulla panca e allora, come vi ho detto, fa 3 panche a settimana. La cosa curiosa è che il giorno 3, quello dell'SBD, con mia sorpresa, non è il giorno più pesante con le alzate da gara, ma è un giorno che lei ha definito medio leggero e dove usa praticamente solo varianti, e questa è una cosa inusuale, dicevo, perché la maggior parte delle persone fanno al contrario, cioè usano la strategia opposta di tenere un giorno SBD in cui fanno le alzate specifiche, ma le alzate anche le fanno le singola pesante o questo genere di cose qua, mentre lei lo definisce un giorno medio leggero dove usa praticamente sempre varianti. Per quanto riguarda la quantità di volume di lavoro che fa, allora adesso sarebbe un po' difficile fare tutti i conti, comunque usa diverse varianti. Una delle varianti che usa nella panca, sto parlando, è la panca con 3 fermi, cioè in discesa al petto e a metà risalita, e mi dice che possono esserci diverse impostazioni su come sono i set e le ripetizioni. C'è un giorno in cui sono dalle 5 alle 10 serie che hanno ripetizioni variabili e di solito sono inverse al numero di serie. Quindi cosa vuol dire? Vuol dire che più le serie sono alte, quindi più andiamo verso il 10, più le ripetizioni sono basse e viceversa. Mentre per quanto riguarda il giorno che fa un primo lavoro con le 3 serie che dicevo prima, quello tendenzialmente sono a basse ripetizioni e poi fa del lavoro dopo. Ehm, Però una cosa interessante che mi diceva è che lei tendenzialmente non fa la singola pesante famosa come fanno tanti, soprattutto sull'SBD Day, non lo fa. E era incuriosita vedendo altre ragazze e altre persone come Seleno, vedere che loro tendenzialmente lo fanno e vedeva come una cosa diversa, perché lei non era abituata ad andare in gara avendo già provato magari singole pesanti, sapendo già cosa fa, ma non è una cosa che è abituata a fare, dopo chiediamo meglio anche quello. E mi ha fatto l'esempio dello squat che l'ultima singola pesante che ha fatto è stata tipo un mese fa, una cosa di questo tipo. Okay. So how many set do you think you bench totally, adding all the days? Do you think it's around something like 20 sets per week?
I think it might be close to 30, I think, because like, for example, yesterday I did 10, and then the other days it's probably something like 5 to 6. So maybe like 25 to 30.
So it is as you said before, because you're only benching 3 days a week, but the total amount of work you're doing usually is split in more than 3 days for other people, so it's not that different. Maybe this is a way, as you were describing before, it's a way for improve your recovery, but still doing your job, doing your work. That's interesting. That's very interesting. And you said that you are not used to go heavy on singles, even in the bench.
And bench, that's where I will do the most heavy doubles to singles and
Okay.
earlier on. And I think mostly this preparation because I've learned a new type of bench. So we needed a lot of practice. And so I have been having lots of singles and lots of doubles, heavy doubles for bench press. And that I think is like every week, pretty much every week. But it's never a normal one. It's always like a tempo or a long pause. So again, I still don't know how much I can bench, but I know how much I can do with a 2-second pause or a tempo.
Do you normally I would say often practice heavy singles with variation that force you to use less weight?
Yeah, it sounds like that. And because he really wants me to, on the day, not jump calls and practice harder than it is on the day, I think, so that it's not a surprise if we get a long call, because that we train long anyway. And if the call is short and I can go heavier, then cool. But I think he just wants us to be prepared more than anything. And then for deadlifts, I do get to do heavy singles every second week, but they are always a variation.
I'm taking notes.
That's okay.
Okay. Okay. So are you still benching with the widest grip now, even if the butt is your back?
Yeah. Really getting rid of the fourth day got rid of the pec problem. Yeah, so now I haven't been doing the fourth day for maybe a month now, and it's gone. It's non-existent.
Since now you're benching with a wider grip, do you also flare up your elbows a little bit more? Because I saw some from your videos that you're benching with a very large elbows.
Yeah, so his cue for me has always been to flare out, and so I'm probably flaring a bit less than I used to.
Really?
But it's still, in my mind, it's still like a flare. That's still what I'm doing, because I think my elbows, if I don't force the flare, my elbows don't look locked out. And that's been a little issue for me at competitions. It's been mentioned to me by referees.
Okay, and does it happen also with a closer grip?
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay, just so that I know, if I may, how tall are you?
I'm very tall. No, I'm 155 centimeters. That's 5'1", maybe, just.
Oh, well, centimeters is fine for me.
Okay.
Okay, so do you think that maybe because of the shorter arms and the wider grip that sometimes you have problems locking out the elbows? Do you think that's part of the thing?
I'm not sure what it is, but I do. If I flare, it just goes away. If I just sort of like internally rotate a little bit, then it locks out my elbows. I think it's mostly the wrist position. Maybe it limits how much I can just push, so I have to rotate.
Okay, and as a reference,
it's like, when I see, I don't know why I like it's an issue for me, but when I watch a lot of like male benches, like their elbows rarely look fully locked out, but and maybe it's just more obvious for women because we have like smaller arms and it's obvious to see.
Well, I think sometimes it depends also on the how can I say it in English, the way your elbow is built, because sometimes for a male you are they are more tight, and even if the elbow is completely extended and fully extended, it doesn't look that extended. But for a girl, sometimes they are more flexible and they go in overextending a little bit, so you can clearly see when they are locked. maybe, and this is especially true for bigger lifter, male lifter. They always look like they're still a little bit bent in the arms, even in the deadlift.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Just for a reference, how much stronger are you with a widest grip in comparison to shoulder width grip?
I think with just the 2 months of doing it, like I think come competition day that I'll get the 5 kilo PB safely. Yeah. So it's made quite a big difference. Yeah, it feels the difference to me is that it feels like I have like it's easier to get it off the chest. Like once I get it down, it's almost like it's just going to bounce back up. That's what it feels like to me.
Okay. And do you also practice a little bit of dip on the chest when you pose?
Yeah. So even more for this, because I think I was a little bit touch and go-y. I used to just float on top with my previous bench, but for this, it helped me to sink it. Not really sink it, but for me to actually get some weight on my chest. That's more a higher chance of a successful lift than if I was to float it with this new setup.
Ok. Allora, stiamo parlando un attimino di panca e di come fa la panca. Allora, adesso lei mi stava parlando del fatto che ha recentemente cambiato la presa, usa la presa più larga legalmente possibile, che è molto larga, e tra l'altro lei ha un modo di far panca particolare perché ha i gomiti molto molto allargati, e è una cosa che si sforza di fare volutamente, e tollera bene, nel senso che gli dava fastidio solo quando faceva 4 panche, ma adesso che ne fa 3 non ha più problemi al petto o di qualche parte. E in più quella cosa di stare con i gomiti allargati così volutamente l'ha aiutata a risolvere un problema che aveva col lockout dei gomiti, perché ogni tanto sembrava che non avesse chiuso del tutto il gomito e gli dava problemi in gara. Invece adesso così va meglio, e si sforza insomma di chiudere meglio e gli sembra che vada meglio. E in più il tipo di panca larga così, fatta in questo modo, le dà l'impressione anche di, vabbè, oltre di essere più forte, perché ha detto che pensa di farci 5 kg di PR rispetto alla presa che aveva un po' più stretta prima, ma le dà anche l'impressione di riuscire a partire meglio dal petto, che anche questa potrebbe sembrare una cosa controintuitiva, perché di solito prese larghe sembra più difficile partire dal petto, ma si chiude meglio. Però nel suo caso mi diceva che un pochino affonda e è un po' più solida sulla pausa, ma dopo gli dà una partenza anche migliore dal petto. Anche questa è una cosa, sì, che chiaramente deve farci un po' di pratica una persona quando la prova, però se fatta bene a volte dà quella sensazione di riparte bene dal petto più facilmente. Tornando invece al volume totale che fa di panca, abbiamo fatto 2 conti perché prima non ho più spiegato, fa circa tra le 25 e le 30 serie totali a settimana, quindi dicevamo che nonostante lei faccia solo 3 panche a settimana, in realtà le fa, cioè, fa tanto lavoro e viene la quantità di panca che normalmente una persona mai fa su più giorni. Per darvi un riferimento, lei come dicevo gareggia nella 1076, però è alta 155 cm, così avete dei riferimenti. Abbiamo parlato anche un attimino di singole pesanti, quando le fa, quanto e come, eccetera, e di panca le fa un po' più spesso rispetto al resto, le fa una volta a settimana circa, però lo fa sempre sulle varianti, non lo fa sulla panca da gara, e tendenzialmente, questa era una cosa che avevo chiesto, tendenzialmente lo fa su varianti che la obbligano, diciamo, a usare meno peso. Comunque sono varianti un po' più difficili, come una pausa lungo al petto, una discesa lenta, cose di questo tipo, anche perché ha avuto qualche fastidio in passato in gara con magari saltare un attimino i comandi, partire troppo veloce senza aspettare il comando di ripartire dal petto, e questo insomma le aiuta a essere più sicura anche in gara dopo con il regolamento. Mentre per quanto riguarda sempre il discorso singole, mi ha fatto un accenno, ma dopo chiediamo meglio. Distacco invece lo fa una volta ogni 2 settimane, la singola pesante, che anche lì, se non mi ricordo male, la fa su varianti, non sullo stacco da gara. Quindi da quello che capisco lei insomma dà un'importanza notevole alle varianti, e ci va anche pesante su quelle piuttosto che sull'alzata da gara. Ok, so what about the squat? You're squatting now two times a week. On the SBD day, you're squatting with a variation, I guess.
Yeah.
And on the first day, you're squatting with the competition style.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me a little bit more about the squat.
Yeah. So on a Tuesday during the week is the competition squat day, and alternating weeks is like how heavy it is. So one every second week I will get to do a heavy squat, and usually early in the program it's a triple or a double, and then the first singles were in the last 3 weeks. So I got, I think it was like 228 and then 231. And then after I work up to that heavy number, then I have back off sets. So that's usually 4 to 5 sets of something like a moderate weight. And that's the heavy squat day. The other squat day is a pause, I think, actually. It's a pause squat, and that might be 4 or 5 sets of a moderate weight. And then that's it. And so on my SBD days, I will have, like, he thinks it's light, but it never feels light. It always feels heavy. It's my light day of high bar and safety bar squat. And those two, obviously are lower than my power is a lot lower than my low bar squat. So the lower numbers, they do still feel quite heavy to me.
They are lower in absolute number, but they're still heavy in comparison to your maximum on high bar or safety.
Yeah.
So the post squat you're doing with the safety and or high bar or with low bar?
Low bar. It will be low bar.
Okay, so you're shifting from high bar to safety or to low bar post squat.
Yeah.
Okay. What about reps for the variation day?
Reps on the variation day, it's like the high bar day, it was 4 by 6, and the safety bar squat is it's pause beltless, and that is, I think it's like 5 by 3. Yeah.
Pause, safety bar, beltless. Wow. Best stuff, man. Best stuff. Because it's light on your back, but when you're down there, oof.
It's So it's I think it's like the minimum weight is last week was like 140 or something. That was so hard. It was so hard.
Yeah, it seems impossible. The amount of fatigue and hard feelings you have when you're doing such low weight, but with this kind of variation, it's a variation I like. It's a variation I practice myself. It's very interesting.
Yeah, no, it works. It's good because it increases, the upper back strength and mostly that really. I think once we introduced the safety bar squat, that helped my squat a lot, I reckon.
Mm-hmm. Also, I think in your case, it's a smart strategy because with the safety bar, you solve the shoulder problem, and you can still train with a high intensity, relatively speaking, but with a lower absolute weight. So you don't tax yourself that much, you don't stress yourself that much, but you can still somehow receive a stimulus that is making you improve. And you're also working on the technical aspect you want to improve. So I think it's a very smart move.
Yeah.
Ok, so give me a moment, please. Allora, per quanto riguarda lo squat, come vi ho detto, fa 2 squat a settimana, perché mi sto un po' prendendo qua con gli appunti. Fa 2 squat a settimana, al giorno 1 e al giorno 3. Il giorno 3 è quello dell'SBD, che fa una variante, che sostanzialmente le varianti che usa sono high bar safety o low bar con la pausa in buca, e le ruota queste varianti qui, e tendenzialmente ci fa 4-5 serie da 6-3 ripetizioni. Per quanto riguarda i carichi che uso qui sono medio-moderati, lei mi diceva che nonostante il carico assoluto sia limitato, comunque lo percepisce come pesante. Questo, per spiegarci meglio, è di fatto un giorno, diciamo, col carico assoluto sul bilanciere più leggero in rapporto a quello che è il suo massimale di squat low bar, però essendo che lo fa con una variante a qualche ripetizione in più e una variante più difficile, quindi non so, lei bar o la pausa in buca, cose di questo tipo qui, anche se il peso assoluto sulle spalle è limitato, comunque di fatto è faticoso, quindi non lo percepisci come una cosa facile da fare. In particolare parlavamo dopo della variante con la safety, con la posa in buca senza cintura, che è una variante che piace molto anche a me. Che ha detto che secondo lei l'ha aiutata molto a migliorare nello squat, e quello lo faceva in par con 140 kg, e tenete a mente che lei di massimale di squat c'ha 222, così avete dei riferimenti, anzi 231 ha fatto di recente, quindi faceva fatica sostanzialmente con 140 kg, che in rapporto al massimale è insomma abbastanza limitato come carico assoluto, però ha detto che secondo lei l'ha aiutata molto. E in quella variante lì faceva serie da 3, faceva 5 serie da 3, però su altre cose mai fa da 6 ripetizioni o insomma ripetizioni un pelo più alte. Per quanto riguarda il giorno 1, la fa lo squat, quello che chiamiamolo pesante, e è in low bar. E lei va pesante, mi dicevano, a settimana alterna, quindi settimana sì, una settimana no, e può essere una tripla, una doppia, una singola, e dopodiché scende e insomma, ci fa un po' di volume, con quelli che ha chiamato lei pesi medi. Questo è un po' come è impostato. Poi avevo fatto una piccola parentesi sul fatto che pensavo che fosse una bellissima idea usare la safety, proprio per le cose che mi diceva prima del fastidio agli avambracci, eccetera, in modo da comunque avere un carico basso sulle spalle con uno stress minore sul corpo in generale, però poter fare sostanzialmente il lavoro di squat allenante lo stesso. Ok, so would you like to talk about the deadlift?
Yeah, deadlift. So that used to, well, I love all the lifts, but that used to be my favorite lift before I started squatting really well. And it's always been fun for me because of like the heavy variations that we've done over the years. So again, like deadlifting twice a week, and during the week, on every second week, again, I'll have a heavy deadlift. And right up until the last maybe 2 weeks ago, they were all variations. So they could be like deficit or chain or high block, reverse band. There's more than that. And then this week was the first time I did like an actual heavy deadlift double. And that will be like the heaviest that I will do. And then that's it until competition. I'll just do moderate weight deadlifts. And on the heavy days, like you work up to the single, and it's the goal is it's like RPE 10. So you want to get an RPE 10 stimulus. And then after that, I'll have just like 3x6, very light drop back sets, and which will always feel very heavy after you've done a max out session. And then the alternate week deadlift day is, on the SBD day, is usually like 10x2 or 10x2 on the heavy week. And that is banded deadlifts, so that I've got that. I had that yesterday. And then the lighter week deadlift during the week, what do I do? Oh, it's a variation again. So it's like I think like 8x3 or 6x3 or something like that of deficit deadlifts, or it depends on what flavor of the block he wants, deficit or banded. And then that SBD day will just be like a 5x3 or 5x4 normal deadlift, moderate. Yeah, so that's kind of how the deadlifts go, always.
Oh, so sorry, just to be sure, because I'm not sure to have it heard correctly. On the heavier day, you go heavy every other day. Sorry, every other week, and
Mm-hmm.
you go for an RPE 10.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, but not for a single.
For RPA 10 for a single like variation.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. And then you do three back off sets, pretty light.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm.
okay. Um, it's being it is always being like that you go that heavy every other week, or it's only something like you do on the last phases of the program before the competition.
It is, I think it's always, yeah. And the variation at the beginning of the prep usually takes off. It either limits how heavy I can go. So that session might be 230 and it feels like an RPE 910. And then closer that we get, the almost like the more aid it will give me, but I will get exposed to 250, 260 in my hands. That's quite important for me to actually feel a heavier weight, because if for some reason my grip just forgets what it's like to hold 250. And so it needs to hold it, even if it's getting some help from a reverse band or a high block. So yeah, that's usually how it goes. The variation at the beginning is something like deficit, or something that prevents me from actually going too heavy, but getting the same stimulus. And then the closer we get, it's usually aids me and I can do like 250, 260.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. What about the second day in which you are doing bands, deficit, chains, and so on? Just to have a reference, in percentage wise, how heavy is it?
So on the singles is where the bands and the chains and stuff are, and that's on the heavy weeks.
Oh, sorry.
And then that's okay. The not heavy weeks. It's still a variation, but it will be like deficit, and the numbers will be like 180 to 190, and I'll often not go past 200, unless sometimes there's a block where it's just deadlifts. So, and then I will go into the 200s, the early 200s. But that hasn't been this block.
Okay, so 200 in comparison to your 255 max, I think it's around 80%, something like that. Maybe a little bit less than 80%. So from 180 to 200 is most of the time what you use. Okay. Which is 75, 80%, that range. Okay. For 10 by 2, 8 by 3, stuff like that.
Yeah. That's been this block, whereas like some other blocks have been just like normal deadlift, no variation, but it would be like maybe 4 or 5 by 4 or whatever. I'm probably butchering this, but and those weights would be like 200 to 210, 215. So like that's a little bit higher, but the variations are always lower weight.
Ok. Allora, ho chiesto un attimino di spiegarmi come è impostato l'ostacolo. Allora, qua farò un po' fatica a riassumere perché è stato un po' un insieme di tante cose che spero di ricordarmi bene. Allora, sostanzialmente fa 2 stacchi a settimana. Il giorno pesante che è il giorno 1, e dopo c'ha l'SBD Day, che è l'altro giorno, che è comunque sempre medio, leggero, con delle varianti, eccetera. Nell'ultimo periodo comunque lei sta facendo praticamente soltanto varianti. Per quanto riguarda il giorno pesante, mi ha detto che va pesante, una settimana alterna, quindi una settimana sì, una settimana no, e questa è una cosa molto inusuale, diciamo, lei fa proprio una singola pesante RP10 di fatto, e dopodiché ci fa 3 serie di back off che sono, lei le ha chiamate leggere, ma che sente pesante perché sei cotto sostanzialmente, e quindi dice che il carico assoluto è leggero, ma ovviamente le sente pesanti, e questo fa settimane alterne nel giorno pesante, e utilizza delle varianti, non lo fa con l'alzata da gara. La cosa bella e molto intelligente di tutto questo approccio qua, che mi ha spiegato molto bene, è che lei parte, cioè le fa tutto l'anno praticamente sta cosa qua, e non solo nella fase, diciamo, vicino alla gara, e parte in anticipo da distante alla gara, dove queste varianti, dove ci fa la singola pesante RP10, sono delle varianti che sostanzialmente la obbligano a mettere meno peso, quindi può essere un deficit, può essere roba che di fatto tocca carichi assoluti più bassi, che magari per lei erano 220, 230, roba così, su un massimale di 255. E poi man mano che si avvicina alla competizione fa sempre varianti sempre più pesanti, cioè le tira sempre singola RP10, però sono varianti che gli permettono di usare un carico assoluto più alto, perché mi diceva che comunque per lei è importante sentire il carico alto in mano, perché anche a livello di presa ha bisogno di sentirlo spesso, perché fa fatica se no. Questo, diciamo, è un approccio un po' meno frequente, andare così pesante così su una singola nello stacco. Il giorno 2, scusate, le varianti che usa sul giorno 1 per farci questa singola possono essere blocchi, deficit, catene, roba di questo tipo. Il giorno 2 è un giorno dove comunque usa varianti, soprattutto nell'ultimo periodo qua, dove usa praticamente solo varianti, però ci va più leggero, diciamo medio leggero, e usa schemi come 10x2, 8 o 6 serie da 3, cose di questo tipo, con dei carichi che metto che sono tra i 180 e a volte arrivano vicino ai 200, che sono in rapporto 70 e qualcosa per cento, 75 fino a 80 scarsi per cento circa su 2,55 di massimale. Ehm, E basta, anche qua con le varianti comunque cambia un po', poi metto altri tipi di schemi, ma per non confonderci troppo le idee, sostanzialmente il concetto è questo. Che tra l'altro noto delle somiglianze un po' come approccio a delle strategie tipo Westside, ci assomigliano un pochino per certi aspetti. Ok. Um, what about RPE? Do you only train with RPE? Do you train with percentage? What do you use?
I think RPE is kind of just on the deadlift days because there's no prescribed number. It's just the RPE, it says max out. So that's what it is. In the past, he has, like years ago, tried RPE, but I'm a very conservative RPE picker, so it didn't work out. It's too hard for me to pick what RPE I'm doing. I think I don't know how he does it. Like my program, it's just got my like numbers, sets, range. I don't pick any numbers unless it's my deadlift. And like even he's made the comment, like, he just writes numbers down, and then I just it's kind of weird that I just do the number. So like it just happens. So but I think that's just the sort of like speaks to how long we've been working together, is that he just knows how I work very, very well, and he can write numbers down, and I will be able to work within that range. So yeah, it gives us a range. Sometimes that range is very small, or sometimes that range is very big. But I personally don't know what like percentage or RPEs they are. He gives us actually like colors. So in our program, it will be like green, blue, yellow, or red. And so with how long we've been working with him, we know how those colors should feel. So
Okay.
obviously, if it's red, it should feel like very, very challenging. Extremely challenging to max out. So usually you're at a 9 or 10, and then yellow is like very challenging but not a max out. So that probably is 7 to 8, sometimes 9. And then green and blue is probably around 6 to 7. Like that's how we've been working for probably the last 3 years, like all of us at the gym, because we do, I do train with him in person, like every single time.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's also why he knows me so well and can pick the numbers. But I also train with my training partners all the time. So we have set squad sessions, and we all know what the colors mean. So we've all learned what our red is or what our own orange or blue or whatever is.
And you said that you have a range sometimes. Does it mean that you can auto-regulate the weight, or?
Yeah, so the way that my mind is, I always want to hit the top range, but I know that, if I'm for some reason not well rested or something's not allowing me to be at my best on that day, that I can hit the minimum weight. For sometimes there's even a minimum set. So it might be 6 to 8 sets for 3 to 4 reps, which sounds not much different, but it can make a lot of difference on the day. And so I've been able to learn how to just like tailor my own sets and ranges with how I feel. Most of the time, it's like at least max sets and reps, medium, middle to max weight. But sometimes, it just needs to be absolute minimum that day because I'm not feeling it.
Do you think it fits better with your personality, the fact that you have a fixed program with the exact number of kgs that you have to lift? Because, sometimes it's also a matter of personalities and character. Some people prefer to have an exact number because in their mindset, they need to have everything under control and not anything led by themselves. So do you think is part of the reason is that, or do you think it's something else?
Yeah, I think one of the main ones is that he's always trained all of us that way from the very beginning. But also, I don't want to think about it. Like I do a lot of thinking for other people as a doctor at work. And so when I get to the gym, I kind of just like, you do all the thinking and I'll do what I'm good at, which is just lifting the weight.
No, that's fine. That's good. Ok. Ho chiesto sull'allenamento come ha gestito, se ci sono RPE o no, e mi ha detto sostanzialmente che gli RPE li ha soltanto per lo stacco, che però in realtà non c'è tutta sto margine di autoregolazione perché è una singola pesante quasi massimale, quindi non è che deve starla tanto a pensare. Dopo, per riassumere un po' la sua risposta, mi ha detto che si trova meglio ad avere un programma un po' più fisso dove ha già quello che deve fare e va lì in palestra, non ci pensa, esegue, anche perché ha il vantaggio enorme di avere il suo allenatore che ripeto, l'ha allenato dall'inizio per 6 anni di fila, quindi si conoscono molto bene, e ha il vantaggio di vederlo lì in persona, allenarsi insieme ogni volta, quindi si conoscono molto bene, lui sa molto bene lei come si muove, cosa fa, cosa non fa e tutto quello che ne consegue, e sostanzialmente gli dà già direttamente i carichi, lei va lì e li fa. E c'è un po' di margine di autoregolazione, nel senso che ci sono dei range ogni tanto su alcune cose, cioè gli dà degli intervalli per il carico e lei mi dice che chiaramente, come praticamente tutti gli atleti, puntano al margine alto dell'intervallo, però dopo chiaramente dipende da come sta e tutto quello che ne consegue, ma in linea di massima il programma è fisso, cioè non è neanche a percentuali a carico perché ragionano così, si conoscono molto bene, lo vede ogni volta e lei preferisce anche per motivi suoi di carattere, con il fatto che col lavoro anche tutto il giorno pensa ai cazzi delle altre persone perché lavora come medico, quando va in palestra non voglio pensare, leggo scritto il peso, eseguo quel peso e basta. Poi mi raccontava di un sistema che usano con i colori che il suo allenatore utilizza nei programmi, dove ci sono dei colori rosso, verde, giallo, blu, insomma praticamente delle fasce, e questo sta a stabilire praticamente come dovrebbe essere percepito quel tipo di carico di lavoro, se facile, medio, leggero e via dicendo, con i colori di conseguenza, e mi ha fatto dei paragoni dicendomi più o meno a che tipologia di RPE potrebbero corrispondere i vari colori, però il concetto di base è che i carichi sono fissi, in linea di massima sono fissi, con l'allenatore che decide lui, e lei va lì, esegue, fine, senza troppo margine di autoregolazione. Anche sugli schemi in realtà ammetto che c'è un po' di margine di modifica a seconda di come sta, chiaramente perché l'allenatore è lì e vede che non è in forma, non sta bene, è stanca, eccetera, magari gli modifica leggermente le cose, però il concetto di fondo è che non è autogestito con l'RPE, ma è un programma fisso. Ok, what about accessories work, bodybuilding work, and that kind of movements? How much? How many? How often?
Yeah. Yeah. Dom, my coach, has always been huge on accessories. So we do accessories, and it seems like a lot of them. So on the weekday, I will have 4 or 5 accessories to do after my training. And then on SBD day, I'll have 3. And they change depending on like what we need to develop. But they are usually like 4 sets of 10 to 12 reps of something. And generally they are the staples for us are like back extensions, core work, so like Copenhagen planks, or he gives them his own names, some of them. So I could say, like one of them is stir the pot. I don't know if he made that one up, but it's on a medicine ball and you're just
okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's that one. There's a lot of this one, I think, because of we're trying to really get my bench going. There's been a lot of upper body work, so lots of dumbbell bench press, laying flat or incline, weighted dips, lots. Yeah. So we all don't like accessories because we have so many to do.
Well, I think your training session is gonna be pretty long, because if you're doing an SBD and then 3 more movements after that, it's gonna be, well.
Yes. It takes a long time.
10 sets of bench, and then the deadlift, and then the squat, and then 3 accessories.
Yeah. So, but it has always been that way. Lots of accessories, and we kind of it works. So I know that there's some people who don't do any accessories, but they're still like really high level, which is so like unusual to me.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't met someone that is not doing accessories work yet, because all of the people I've interviewed so far do a lot of accessories, especially girls. Girls do a lot of volumes. They do a lot of accessories, especially for the upper body, and they do a lot of bodybuilding things. So it's very uncommon to not do any accessories work. It was a little bit more like that in the past, especially with equipped powerlifting, but not so anymore.
Okay. Yeah. We're all suffering together.
Yeah. And what? This is a good question. What about Bulgarian squat? Bulgarian split
yes.
squat?
Yeah, we do have that.
Don't tell me you love them. You don't love.
No, I do not. No. I don't have them this block, and I was just like, oh, thank goodness.
Oh, thank God.
So hard. My goodness.
Everybody hates them. Everybody hates them.
So painful. And there's Megan Scanlon. She's the 63 world champion from 2022, I think. She can do like 110 kilos Bulgarian split squat on a safety bar squat.
Oh.
Yeah, so she has, I think, like more than 6. I watched her video.
Shit.
Oh my goodness, it's crazy.
Oh, and as for you, when you did Bulgarian split squat, did you do them with the safety bar or with the dumbbells?
Yeah, with the safety bar. And I think like I painfully got up to 60.
Painfully.
Painfully got up to 60 or 70, but that was really hard. That was really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I think that this is just my opinion. I think that for a powerlifter, it's an interesting movement, Bulgarian split squat, especially with the safety bar, maybe holding with your hands in the rack or something like that. But I know a lot of people who injure themselves doing that stuff Be because they are strong, they're not used to that movement, and
Yeah.
after a while, they get a little bit more stable holding their hands with the hands on the rack, and they load a lot of weight immediately, but they're not used to that kind of movement, and a lot of them have some problems with the adductors doing that stuff.
Oh, yeah. No, I learned very quickly, like with any accessories, like just you start very low because
Mm.
it's like they're all different movements, and you can be very weak with an accessory compared to your main lift. So always start low.
Ok. Ho chiesto per quanto riguarda i complementari lavoro accessorio e sostanzialmente mi ha fatto un po' una panoramica generale, allora qua nulla di strano, nulla di diverso dal solito. Il giorno dell'SBD fa 3 complementari di solito, mentre gli altri giorni fa 4-5 movimenti con i classici schemi 4x10-12, roba di quel tipo, fa un po' di tutto. Mi ha fatto un po' di esempi, insomma, i soliti movimenti. Poi abbiamo fatto, come capita spesso, una piccola digressione sul Bulgarian Split Squat, che mi ha detto che lo odia e lo odiamo tutti, siamo tutti quanti nella stessa barca, fa schifo. E mi ha raccontato anche dei carichi che fa e mi ha detto che con fatica, odiando la vita, è arrivato a fare serie da 60-70 kg con la safety. Però sì, abbiamo fatto dei confronti con altre persone che magari hanno messo anche molto più peso. Tra l'altro la campionessa della meno 63 nel 2022, mi sembra, mi ha detto che ha visto un video che lo faceva con serie da tipo, insomma, alte ripetizioni, adesso non ricordo il numero preciso, con 110 kg, che insomma, sti cazzi. E, dopo un altro paio di complementari che hai detto che sono, diciamo, una costante, che sono importanti per lei e il suo coach, sono qualche forma di estensione per la schiena e il Copenhagen Plank, che anche questo è un'ottima cosa che purtroppo non la si fa spesso, ma sarebbe un'ottima idea per un powerlifter. Basta, questo è il lavoro di bodybuilding che fa, e metto che l'ha più o meno sempre fatto in questo modo fin dall'inizio, gli ha dato importanza e non c'ha tutta questa grandissima passione per farlo, però sostanzialmente non fa nulla di molto diverso dal solito. So, Karlina, what about injuries?
Mm, mm. I think I haven't had anything that like completely stops me from doing my training. I have had uh, um, like tendonitis in different areas, elbows, knees, the usual stuff, the stuff that you kind of just live with and accept that you're going to have as a powerlifter. And, there are points where that was very, very sore, really, really painful. And then you have to recruit help with a physio or alter things for a bit to let it calm down. So I haven't had like really raging tendinitises for a while, but they're always there in the background. They're always a little bit tender, they're always a little bit sore, especially when you start to peak. The only thing that kind of stopped me was like after Sheffield, there was like a back injury or pain. It didn't happen. Like I didn't feel it in the competition. There wasn't any sort of lift where I thought, oh my gosh, my back. It wasn't, I think it was just overall load and fatigue from the competition, because I didn't feel it until like 2 days later, where, just getting up and down from a chair was painful and deadlifting was painful. But that got better quite quickly. Like every week I was able to lift maybe 5 kilos more with minimal pain. So I don't know what it was, but I think it was just some kind of muscle tear or something, because it got better so quickly. And And by quick, that to me, that was like 8 weeks. That felt quick to me compared to how the pain felt at the beginning. And so that's probably like the most injured I've ever been. And I'm just constantly working with a physio. You know, as soon as something creeps up, I want to know about it. I want to know how to make it better and prevent it and all of that stuff. So I think I've like been very lucky to not have any major injuries, but you can't get to this level in the sport and have nothing going on. There's always a couple of things that are hurting.
Yeah, this is just the regular life for a lifter, so
Yeah.
we have to deal with it.
Yeah.
What are the most common spots in which you have or had tendonitis?
Definitely elbows, like that's a huge one. And I have to train with elbow sleeves to stop that. So when I squat, I have to have elbow sleeves on. And then by the time I get to competition, like it's fine. Like elbow sleeves make no difference to your squat. It just helps the tendonitis. So it makes no difference when I get to the platform. And then every now and then a knee will pop up, like either a patella or a quad tendonitis. I think hips are just normal for everyone. You know, those are always a little bit sore, but nothing for a long time that I have to get physio for. So elbows and a knee when it gets closer to competition, for sure.
Ok. Gli ho chiesto per quanto riguarda gli infortuni e per quanto riguarda infortuni seri, grossi, mi ha detto che non ha mai avuto nulla di, diciamo, di preoccupante, di vero proprio infortunio debilitante, di quelli che ti rovina la carriera, non ne ha avuti. L'unica cosa che è stata un po' più preoccupante è stata dopo Sheffield dell'anno scorso, che mi ha detto che durante la gara non ha avuto nessun problema, non ha avuto dolori particolari, però pensa che un po' la fatica, un po' tutto quanto, un paio di giorni dopo ha iniziato ad avere mal di schiena, e questa mal di schiena che se l'ha portata avanti per 8 settimane, che dal suo punto di vista comunque se l'ha cavata velocemente, però sì, nulla di tragico, nulla di cosa, ha detto che pensava che fosse una cosa muscolare. A parte quello, mi ha detto che tendenzialmente ha sì, un po' doloretti qua e là normali con cui convive, che sono sempre lì latenti, e sostanzialmente questa è una cosa quasi inevitabile per chi fa sport ad alto livello. Principalmente tendinite o simili, questi sono i problemi che tra l'altro anche dal mio punto di vista sono i più comuni nel mondo del powerlifting. Tra le zone con cui ho avuto più fastidi sono sicuramente i gomiti, mi ha detto, e infatti nello squat bar, soprattutto lontano dalle gare, mette le gomitiere in modo da avere meno fastidio, tanto non li cambia la prestazione. E dopo sulle ginocchia ogni tanto, qualche volta, sempre a livello di tendinite, dico, ogni tanto un po' fastidio quello, però sì, fortunatamente non ho avuto grossi problemi. What about nutrition? Would you like to talk about nutrition as well a little bit? Is it fine for you?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so now you are in the under 76, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so I think last 2022, that was the first time going to the under 76 kilo class. But before that, there was the under 72, and then even earlier when I started powerlifting, like I was 69 kilos, so I was cutting stupidly to the 63. But that didn't last long. That was 1 year, and then that was not a fun time. That was just a little bit silly. But it's been 6 years, so I've learned a lot about my own nutrition and how I need what works for me. There was a point 3 years ago where I worked with a dietitian, and I got a lot of information and a lot of knowledge from working with him for a year and a half, maybe. And so now I just do my own nutrition because, once you've worked with the dietitian and things are quite stable and haven't changed for a long time, then you kind of just continue doing that. So for the 76 kilo class, if I'm not on holiday mode, then I'm comfortably around 77 to 78 kilos. and when I'm in holiday mode, I can easily get 80 plus kilos. That's very easy for me. So this time round, it's never too hard. 2 months out from competition, like I'm always 77.5 kilos and training at that weight. And then what I'd be eating, like on average, would be like 2,000 calories, I think. I put a lot of that into my weekend because I don't care about my food during the week. You know, I'm working, I'm training, I'm busy, so I'm happy to just eat quite clean or quite healthy. But I love my weekends. I love to like cook meals, and I love to eat dessert and all of the food that I want. So it averages out to 2,000, but like a huge bulk of that is on the weekend. And that works well for me. And then competition time, I will do like a gut weight cut 2 days before or 1.5 days before. And that will usually, the taper takes off 0.5 kilo. Like the taper, I just lose a little bit of weight from that. And then I lose another kilo from gut weight cutting. So, and I only have to do that for maximum 2 days, you know, just switch my meals to no fiber. On the first day, that it might just be like protein sources like eggs and cheese and things like that. And then the day before, it's usually like liquid, like pretty liquid diet. And then we get to weight very comfortably that way.
Do you also track your calories and macros with an app or something, or?
Yeah, I haven't for a long time, but actually this last 3 months, I used that new app, Macro Factor app, and I found that quite helpful. Actually, that was that I've never used an app before, but I have been tracking every day because after World, I was in Italy for like 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh,
and, yeah, and I loved it so much, but I also got to like 84 kilos. And so I was like, oh God, I need help. Like I've never actually been this heavy before. So I downloaded that app, and it does, there's no like rocket science behind it, but it just allows you to see things very clearly and understand your behavior and do what you need to do. So that was very helpful. But yes. So Italy made me at 84 plus.
Well, just that the tracking process makes you aware of what's going on. It's similar. Of course, you're a medical doctor, so you know this better than me. It's the same with other pathologies or other things, but just the fact of having a diary and track your habits makes a big difference, so people can realize what they're doing. So the question was because you said it averages 2,000, and I was asking if it was an average made by the app or just a guess.
It was, I think it has always been that, but the app made me realize that that's what it is. So again, in my mind, I used to eat, I was like, I'm not eating 2,000, I'm eating less than that.
Of course.
Like, you know,
of
like
course.
my patients, they're always saying, you know, no, I eat really healthy. And I'm like,
I don't eat anything.
I eat nothing. I don't know why I'm gaining weight, but if I can make that mistake, or you can make that mistake. So no, like you said, the app just made me aware of what I'm actually doing, which I was not aware.
Yeah, that's the main goal. That's the main goal of the app. Yeah. We are on the same boat. Everybody are on the same boat. Okay. What about macros?
Yeah, macros. I let the app set that for me. There was times where I would like put protein really, really, really high, and that wasn't really fun. That would be like at 200 or 220 grams. That's at the higher end. I think that's like, I can't even remember what the grams per kilo is, but that was very high. There was a lot of protein shakes, and I don't enjoy that. You have to enjoy what you're doing as well.
Of course.
Yeah, now it's more like protein is like 140, and then carbs might be 200, and And then the fats is very low, it's like 50, but I'll make up for that on the weekend very easily.
Ok, allora ho chiesto un pochino di alimentazione, come è gestita e come si comporta, come fa. Allora, lei sostanzialmente, dicevamo, gareggia nel meno 76, la maggior parte del tempo sta sui 77-78. Lei mi ha fatto sorridere perché lei mi ha detto dipende se sono in modalità vacanza o no, perché ha detto tendenzialmente sto a 77-78, ma se sono in modalità vacanza, siccome ha detto che gli piace cucinare, gli piace, insomma, è una buona forchetta probabilmente. Vedete, in modalità vacanza sale a 80 kg o più molto facilmente se non sta attenta. In media, tracciando un attimino, facendo i conti, mi detto che sta sulle 2000 calorie, però durante la settimana mangia tendenzialmente molto meno e poi il weekend alza molto di più le calorie, quindi la media viene circa sulle 2000 calorie a grandi linee. Per darvi due riferimenti con i macro, mi ha detto che adesso stava dando un po' a memoria, sta circa sui 140 di proteine, 200 di carbo e una cinquantina di grammi di grassi a spanne, prendetele un po' con le pinze. In passato mi ha detto che ha provato a stare anche molto più alta di proteine, anche a 200 rotti grammi, 200-220 grammi, cose di quel tipo, però ha detto che insomma, non si trovava bene, tra l'altro non le piaceva mandare giù tutti quegli shake e cose di questo tipo. Per quanto riguarda il discorso te per diciamo, tagliare il peso, entrare in categoria, si trova qualche settimana prima stabile su 77-78 kg. Lei ha detto che sostanzialmente non fa grandi tagli, non fa grandi cose. In passato è stata nella meno 63, anche è stata nelle categorie più leggere e ha detto che lì è stato molto molto difficile, ma c'è stato per poco tempo perché non fa il caso suo quella categoria. Mentre adesso, appunto, essendo che è 1,5 kg/2 fuori categoria fino a poco prima della categoria, lei fa semplicemente quello che si chiama gut cut, cioè sostanzialmente cerca di togliere massa dal contenuto intestinale nei giorni prima e lo si fa tendenzialmente riducendo le fibre e mangiando cibi caloricamente più densi, con meno volume, con meno peso di roba, cioè lei piace l'esempio di formaggio o frutta secca, roba così, roba oleosa, roba grassa, in modo che comunque le calorie ci siano, però c'è poca roba nell'intestino, quindi ti svuoti e magari perdi un po' di peso con quello. Il giorno prima della gara mangia soltanto semplicemente liquido e quindi anche questo aiuta un po' a perdere un po' di peso dall'intestino e perde anche mezzo chilo solo col fatto che fa il taper e poi si somma appunto queste strategie qua e perde quel chilo e mezzo, due che deve. Non fa grandi altre cose di particolare, mi ha detto, mi ha fatto un po' una descrizione in linea di massima di come è impostata la cosa, però questo è il discorso. Abbiamo fatto un attimo anche una panoramica del discorso dell'utilizzo delle app per tracciare e diciamo che appunto è importante più che altro per avere una consapevolezza di quello che fa e come è gestito, perché inizialmente anche lei non si accorgeva di come era distribuito la quantità di calorie tra il weekend e durante la settimana. Mi ha detto che in passato è stata seguita e aiutata da un nutrizionista, l'ha fatto per un po', gli è servito molto per capire, imparare, conoscersi e adesso si arrangia da sola perché insomma è più o meno stabile con le pratiche alimentari, quindi si arrangia. Ok. Would you like to talk about something more? Because I'm quite good with this.
No, that was good. Yeah, that was I don't often talk about programming very much, so that was different.
Well, I have a curiosity because is it hard for you to put everything together? I mean, you're working as a doctor and also training and your personal life. How can you manage to mix it all together?
Yeah. So I think like a family physician. So like we call it a general practitioner here. And with that, you are kind of like self-employed. So you have a lot of say in what your schedule looks like. And especially if you work with a really good practice and they respect what you're doing. So for me, I've set my work schedule to work around my training schedule. I still work 4 days a week, but it's set every single week is exactly the same. That's the only real struggle about it is that, you know, if my day off is on Tuesday and if an emergency comes up, like there's no other day that I can make up that training. Nothing like that has happened before, but it just means that it's very rigid. I can't divert anything or just train on a different day. It's just not possible with my work and how far it is and all of that stuff. So it just means that it's rigid, but I'm lucky that I can make my work fit powerlifting for me, which I would not be able to do if I was in the hospital system. So if I was in the hospital, gosh, I don't even think I would be here. That would be impossible, actually, I think.
Is it much tougher in the hospital? Is it hard time for the doctor in the hospital there?
Yeah, it definitely is, because, you know, like I mentioned, I'm basically self-employed, so I get to call the shots on what days I want to work and how long I want to work. Whereas in the hospital, it's just like you're going to work, 7 to 10 p.m. at night, twice a week, and you're going to work every single day for the next 10 days, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Like, I spent 3 years in that system, and that I had no time for anything. Yeah.
And do your patients know that you lift?
A lot of them do, like my very regular patients, and they're very, they're very happy and impressed and always love to hear, like, when is my next trip. And so when I tell them to, get into the gym and lift some weights, they take me very seriously.
Yeah. That's the bonus for you, because sometimes, when a doctor tells the people to, to do some exercise, to be healthy, it's different. If it comes for you, it's very different.
Yeah, and I feel that they take it a bit more seriously when they know what my background is. But my workers are very supportive. When I have competitions, they post it on their Facebook page, and so then all my patients, all the whole town will know about it.
Oh, and how do you feel about that?
I like to keep my work life and private life separate, but it has been a little bit difficult because some patients have found, like, my Instagram page, which is mostly lifting, but it is also personal. So I've had to think about that a lot. Sometimes a patient will come in and they'll be like, "Oh, I found your Instagram page. I love your Instagram page." And then I'm like, "Oh, that's really awkward." And then I'll go find their name and block them. No.
Well, that's a problem. I can understand the problem, because for a person like you that has a job like yours, it's not that easy to manage the passion. You want if possible, you would like, I guess, to completely separate your personal life from the work in your office. So when you're out of the office, you are Karlina and you're doing your things. You're not a doctor. You're doing your things, your life, and but sometimes it's not that easy, especially with social media, or if you're a champion.
Absolutely, yeah. That's you're very right there. So that's a new thing that I've been trying to navigate and see how can I balance it. And I think it's mostly I kind of just block them from my stories.
Okay.
But yeah.
Maybe also you're lucky, because most of the followers, I suppose, that you have are from other countries, because they're following you from powerlifting perspective. So they know you because of the powerlifting, and maybe they are in America, they are in other places. So maybe that's a little bit of a bonus.
Yeah.
Another curiosity. Tell me if I'm bothering you. I'm just curious. What about the time you have for a visit in your private office versus in the hospital?
For a patient?
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, it's so different. When I was working in the hospital, if I was seeing, a new patient coming through, fast would be 40 minutes. Like, if you're a fast junior doctor, you see that patient in 40 minutes. Being a GP, being fast is 10 minutes. So we get a 15-minute slot, and it's back to back to back to back. And so that starts from this time one patient leaves and you go get your next patient. So there's no time in between. And by the time they sit down and you've tried to be nice and say like, how are you? And blah, 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 I'm this person, you're that person, you're at 10 minutes to try and figure out their life. So it's a lot of pressure, and we see 24 patients a day.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, I can definitely see that you are very skillful with the oral capability and the talking. I can definitely see you are used to talk with patients, and you know how to smile. You have a nice smile. You're polite and kind. So I can definitely see that. But let me ask another thing. Do you find it more difficult and more exhausting when you have, let's say, you have 5 hours work? If there are in the same hours more patients, is it more stressful and hard for you than less patients in the same amount of time of work?
Yeah, I think definitely more patients in 5 hours versus less patients is much more stressful, because the amount of it's in no way the patient's problem. It's the health system's problem. But it's hard to get an appointment. You only get 12 minutes, and you've saved up all your problems. And somehow we've got to work together to try and get some of those problems sorted. And then you do that. So we work in 4-hour blocks. And so you do that 12 times in 4 hours. The mental load is huge. And after the patient's gone, a lot of them think that that's it. But then in lunchtime, I'm sorting all of your problems. So I spoke to you and I tried to understand your problems. But then in my own time, I'm going to start sorting it out, order your blood test, do your referral, all of that stuff. And so it's a lot. And so that's why powerlifting has been like kind of a blessing, because I get to offload all of that and have a break from that mental load. I couldn't imagine if I didn't have some kind of physical outlet, like how stressful that would be.
Is it something common for a medical doctor there in your country to suffer from burnout?
Oh, absolutely. I think the percentage is like over half, especially at this point. Probably you have the same issue where you are, where we just don't have enough doctors, we don't have enough time, and we're trying to work in this impossible system that is not made to help the patient. We're all trying to do our best, and God, it's just the perfect environment for burnout. It really is.
Yeah, we have. I think it's the same in most of the new world countries right now. I think it's somehow very common. Do you stop me if I'm bothering you? Just say stop.
That's okay.
Do you also find it very taxing and hard for you to switch your mindset from a patient to another in just 1 minute?
It can be, yeah. Especially because you can really get anything, like the first consult of your day could be somebody, and often is somebody who is like hugely depressed and suicidal, and then you're sort of thinking, I really have 12 minutes to talk to you. Like, you need a lot more time. So you're going to give that person more time. Then you're going to get stressed. And then you're going to realize, oh gosh, the next 2 patients are here. And you have to just reset, get the next one in, and actually give that next 23 people the same amount of like energy and care and willingness to listen every single time. So, a lot of GPs and doctors there's no time, so they stay in their room and you don't see them. They don't come out for lunch. They have to keep working. But for me, I can't do that. I have to leave the room. Like, I've got to go. I've got to get my coffee and stay out of the room so that I can just decompress and be able to like give the next set of patients the same amount of energy. And I find that helps when you just remove yourself from that environment as much as you can, to keep that energy going throughout the day.
Well, that's tough. That's very tough. So I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, sometimes you are pressed with your time, but at the same time you don't want to be rude or you don't want to be mean, you don't want to interrupt the person who is speaking, but
Mm.
you're still thinking tick tock, the times goes, I don't have much time, so I'm trying to be polite but still answer my question and give me exactly the symptoms and what's going on so that I can
Mm.
help you. So how can you mediate with these two aspects of the visit?
Yeah, that's such a, that's a huge one. Learning how to communicate to the patient, like politely, that we do have limited time. Like, I do want to listen to you and your issues and try to address everything. I think the way I found it is that after the niceties at the beginning, I ask, like, what's brought you in today? They usually say one thing, and they talk a little bit about it, and then I go, okay, before I ask you some more questions about this, do you have anything else today that you've
Mm,
come for? That's the key one. And then you might get 10 other things. And that's when you can say, okay, we have this amount of time. What's most important to you? Let's do this today. And then unfortunately you'll have to book for another time. Like, that's just the way it is. But getting that out at the beginning is like so key, because I used to get caught at the end. I
yeah,
spend all
exactly.
this time.
When they are closing the door, oh, doctor, sorry, I forgot.
Exactly. I forgot this, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's already 20 minutes. Like, what? So, yeah, every single patient, I'm getting it out at the very beginning, and then trying to, like, nicely negotiate some kind of list. And people will take more time, because some people really do need more time, and you've got to give them that time. So that always happens, but it's just good to get it out at the beginning. Yeah.
Okay. Um, do you think there are many people suffering from mental health problems now in New Zealand?
Yes, yeah, huge. It has definitely increased, especially since the pandemic. That
Mm.
you're noticing. That would probably be, of my 24 consults, at least four a day is for mental health, and either a follow up or a new experience for the patient. So it's huge.
And do you think it's a bigger problem than other countries there in your countries or not?
Um, I think it is. The stats are very high for our country. So I think if there was a list of countries where it's very prevalent, we would be
Mm.
near the top end of the list. And but yeah, what about for you guys? Because are you an osteopath?
Yeah, yeah, I'm not
Oh,
a, yeah, my job is different, but let's talk about you.
yeah. No, okay.
So
Yeah.
why do you think so is that New Zealand is that high of mental health problems there?
Mm. It's definitely a combination of things. The our health system, or sort of government funding of our health system, is very focused on being the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. A lot of money goes into the hospital, a lot of money goes into trying to make more acute mental health beds, but it's not our government has not been so good at stopping people from getting that bad, so they haven't put a lot of money into the front line, where you could get people when they're having mild symptoms, and prevent them from getting so bad that they need that secondary care. So they're slowly starting to learn where the money is best put. But 3-4 years ago, if someone came to me with mental health issues, I would have, and they were sort of mild to moderate, but they didn't need any secondary care, I kind of would have nowhere to go. If that person can't afford counseling,
Mm.
then what, I could be an ear to listen, and you could come and see me, but again, you have to pay for that. And so that's not accessible. Over the last 3 years, they have put more money into it, so I can now send people for counseling, and that can be funded. but that's still limited. They might only get 4 or 6 sessions for a lifetime of trauma. So we at least have that, where we never used to have that before. So I think it is getting a bit better. And hopefully it gets to the point where, the things that we can offer when people are in mild to moderate stages of their mental health issues, then it prevents them from progressing further and it being much more difficult to deal with. But it's the system, it's the pandemic was huge for people. Yeah, lots of different things.
Okay. Well, give me one moment, I translate and then we are done, ok?
Ok.
Allora, scusatemi, ho fatto un po' una mega digressione perché mi sono perso via con altri discorsi, portate pazienza. Gli ho chiesto un pochino com'è conciliare il lavoro del medico con fare cioè con essere medico con fare powerlifting ad alto livello. E mi ha detto che vabbè, per lei è una gran cosa l'aver fatto e scoperto il powerlifting e dedicarsi, perché le ha permesso sostanzialmente di sfogarsi un attimino e di togliere un po' di stress, perché lei lavora in maniera privata come medico, però è una fonte di stress importante e c'è un alto tasso di burnout nei medici nel suo paese. È un po' difficile a volte gestire il fatto che magari i pazienti dopo scoprono chi sia lei, cosa fa e queste cose qui, perché preferirebbe tenere separate la vita personale e privata diciamo, dal lavoro, però dall'altro lato c'è anche il vantaggio di avere una maggior credibilità mai quando dà delle indicazioni a livello alimentare o di salute in generale, dell'esercizio, di allenamento, eccetera, quando lo consiglia ai pazienti, insomma, diventa ancora più credibile, ancora più facile avere il paziente che collabori con le indicazioni che lei dà. Dopo ho fatto un po' di domande varie che, vabbè, per voi per gli ascoltatori che sono qui per quanto riguarda i pesi potete beatamente fregarvene. E sostanzialmente abbiamo un po' fatto una piccola digressione, questa forse è l'unica roba un po' da dire, sulla salute mentale post-Covid in Nuova Zelanda in generale. Mi ha detto che non è una situazione facile, è in aumento nettamente il numero di problematiche di salute mentale e dopo anche sì, dal punto di vista suo ci sono tutta una serie di difficoltà a livello proprio di come è gestito il sistema sanitario lì che rendono la gestione di questi problemi e in generale la vita del medico molto molto difficile. All right. Well, I'm done. I'm sorry for bothering you for this kind of question.
No, that's okay. It's always I do like to talk about that, so I can talk about that. So that was nice.
Okay. Would you like to add something more, or otherwise I'm good?
No, I'm good. Thank you for having me. That was that was a good conversation.
Okay, where do people can find you?
Yeah, so Instagram, I actually always forget my username. It's Karlina23. That's my username.
Okay. Well, I wish you the best for Sheffield. I wish
Thank
you the
you
best.
so much.
Good luck. Thank you for your time.
That's okay. Thanks for having me.
Have a nice day.
You have a good night. Bye.
Bye.